And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Podcaster Nation. I'm Rory Paquette. I am, as always, your very humble host, and I am so grateful that you all have decided to chime in and listen to us today. This podcast has grown by leaps and bounds because of you. And why is that? Because we are the podcast that is about podcasters, for podcasters, and being done by podcasters. Now, please pardon my voice. It's a little gravelly. I have no idea what happened. As soon as I started talking to this gentleman that I'm hosting today, apparently I just lost my voice. I have no idea what happened. Too many interviews today, you guys, I guess. But hey, when you put up one post and 56 people say, hey, please interview me for your show, you end up talking a whole heck of a lot. Today, we have an incredible guest. I've listened to a couple of his podcasts. They're amazing. I started reading his book. Full transparency, I'm not done with the book yet, but it's enthralling. I wish I had time to finish it before I talk to him. But the gentleman we're talking today, the host of the Beyond the Veil podcast and the author of My Awakening as a Spirit Medium. Please welcome Daniel Jackson to the show. How you doing, Daniel?
Awesome. I'm doing great today. How about you, Rory?
Doing great. For those of you who are on the audio version, he's raising his hands up in the air and doing the champion thing. So, Daniel, listen, I want to thank you for sending me your book.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's been an incredible read so far. I can't wait till I read the rest. Your story is something for sure, and even in the pre-interview, I mean, we probably talked for 5 minutes, and I'm already enthralled and amazed with what this gentleman has to say. When I was listening to his podcast earlier, he ended one of his podcasts with, and I quote, "Be good, don't do any stupid shit, and if you do, don't get caught."
Absolutely.
As soon as I heard that, I knew we had the right guy on the podcast. I knew we did. So, Daniel, tell us who you are.
Well, I'll tell you where I got that saying from. To begin with, I used to work in prison for 6 years. I was in medical, and I would help the inmates because they're just people. I would help them fill out their forms so they could get to see the doctor. Because they would always write their form out. Oh, I was playing basketball and I was going up for layup. Why don't you just write you tripped and fell? Oh, just that? Yeah, sure. So I would help them do that. But I would give them their files and stuff like that before they would leave. And every time they would get ready to leave, I'd say, "All right, man, be good and don't do any stupid shit. But if you do, don't get caught." And because they would get in trouble and they would be back in prison the next day after that because they were doing stupid stuff. But
Let's see.
yeah, pretty simple. My name is Daniel Jackson. I go by Spirit Medium Daniel. I don't call myself psychic because when you call yourself psychic, then you have everybody asking you, "What am I thinking now?" And I always look at them and go, "Well, I don't know what you're thinking, but everyone else thinks you're a bonehead." So yeah, because you're that type of guy who asks stupid questions. But I I grew up in New Jersey. I was born and raised in New Jersey. But in that town that we lived in, we had a battlefield there. We were right next to the Delaware River, and this is where the Hessians fought. And in that battlefield, there was also a little hospital. So there was a lot of spirit type things going on in that part of the neighborhood. And all the homes in that neighborhood were all experiencing things, as well as my parents, both my brothers and my sister. So I've seen spirit ever since I was 3 years old. We all saw them. It's just by the time I was 17 years old, my parents and I and my one brother moved out of the house to move to Delaware, and everyone else went their separate ways. No one else was really seeing anything anymore. It was just me. Uh, I have seen them through my teens, into my 20s, 30s, 40s. And then it was right before I was turning 50 years old when my wife went away on vacation for 2 weeks. And I saw everything you could ever imagine in a scary movie happening in my house for 2 weeks. Um, Compared to what was going on in my house, uh, the Poltergeist movie was nothing. Uh, so uh, so it was when my wife came home from that trip and she told me about her adventures, and then I told her about mine. And then at that point, I mean, I could have just been scared of it all, but I wasn't because I experienced these types of things throughout my life. But it was so much. It was such a condensed version of everything that happened through the past 40 years up until this point. all of it all at once for 2 weeks, that we decided we were going to move forward with it and try to figure out what was going on. So that's what we did.
Let me go back for just a second. You've been seeing this stuff since you unpacked a lot. So,
Yeah.
you've been seeing this stuff since you were three.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like for a 3-year-old who doesn't quite know what they're seeing anyway. But
I did because my brothers, my two brothers, my sister, my mom and dad, we were all experiencing it all the time. So they made it easy for me to a little bit more easier to understand. Like my sister was getting ready for school one time, and my mom was helping her, and they're in the bathroom in front of this door. This closet door had a full length mirror on it, and they were doing my sister's hair, and when they looked into the mirror, there was another woman standing in the mirror, and she had on a colonial outfit. There was one time when my brothers were when I were watching TV downstairs in the recreational room, and uh, and my sister's in her bedroom, 2 flights up, the record player turned on. But people would think, oh, well, that's just, well, no, it was switching records. It would take a record off and put another record on. And so my oldest brother, sent me and my other brother upstairs to go and turn it off. So it was those types of things that would happen. Or a glass would move across the table. We'd all be sitting at the table, and there would go. Or an ashtray would move or fly off the table. Some of that. So yeah, it was constant, but it wasn't anything that was I'd say harmful or disturbing. It was just they were trying to get our attention.
I see. So you had a some sort of recognition of what it was you were seeing, even at a young age like that.
Yeah, because we actually saw them in my sister's room. You could see on the wall at nighttime. You would see three shadows. There was always two male and two men and a woman
I
in the
see.
shadows. Yeah.
Okay. And then you mentioned the incident where your wife takes off for vacation, and you have this, very scary movie, playing for you.
Very spirited movie in my house.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, at that point, is that the reason you bring that up? Is that a changing point? Is that a different, like an arc in your story?
Absolutely. It was even for me, the things that were happening in the home were pretty frightening.
Okay.
I had a cloud that I'd be laying in bed, and there's a cloud that would come out of the corner of the room from the ceiling. And each night it was a different color. It would be red or green or yellow or blue. And then it would come out again and would have red with black stripes, green with black stripes, blue with black stripes. I saw 8 foot skeletons walking around the house. I saw the famed Hat Man appear in my basement. I went to go get my cat from the basement, and he was sitting on a couch, and I said, "Hey, buddy, come on, let's go upstairs." He looked at me. He looked to his right. I looked to my left, and a wall of blackness appeared in the middle of the floor, and then a man stepped out of it. I couldn't see his face because I was to his to the rear of him, but I could see he had this wide rim hat and this long black coat, and I could see his facial features. But he started to walk across the floor. I noticed what I thought was strange to me, but this, I'm sure the whole incident was strange for people, was when he was walking across the floor in perfect stride, he didn't have any feet. And then he walked all the way across the room, and he went through the wall, and that was it. And then gone. And then when I turned around, the wall of blackness just collapsed and disappeared. And then I looked back at my cat, and he looked at me like, "What the hell was that?" And I was like, "Come on." And I just grabbed him, picked him up, took him upstairs. From that point on, there was always a very eerie feeling within our basement. And my wife and I both felt that all the time.
Now, as somebody who doesn't study what it is that you do, I obviously I have questions, but
Yeah, sure.
I'm curious: is that tied more to the house, or does that
No.
come along with like you and your wife? I mean, what is that attached to?
Well, we eventually had a paranormal group come to the house. They came with all their little, they had these like little boxes with lights and wires sticking off of them, and they placed them around the doorways and everything. And I mean, I used to watch the ghost shows, but I didn't know what some of this stuff was. And I said, "What's that have to do with?" And he said, "Oh, he rubbed his hand on the couch, and then he waved his hand, and they all lit up, made this noise." And I was like, "So what's that supposed to mean?" He said, "Oh," he said, "spirit. They put off they put a static electricity. So if something walks past, then we know that there's one around. And that alerts us so we can move our cameras and put our instruments around that way, so that way that we could
Hmm.
pick something up. And I said, okay. And he put some, they put them all over the house. They took pictures, digital photos of some special kind of camera, took pictures of each person in the house. So, and then me, and then, or me and with one of these people. And every time they took a picture of somebody else, there was nothing there. But every time they took a picture that had me in it, there was 15 or 20 light orbs completely surrounding me. Um, they, when they had those little boxes set up, they said, "Well, where do you have the most going on?" I said, "Well, it's the entire house." I said, "But we could start in the bedroom." And so I went through the doorway, immediately going through the doorway. Every one of those little boxes just lit up, made all this. And I was on the other side of the doorway and I turned to them and looked at them and said, "What's going on?" And they were like, "We don't know." So they walked through the doorway, nothing. Every time I walked past those things, they lit up. It was when one of the instances they used a thing called a spirit box, an obulus, and it had a vocabulary of like 10,000 words, something. And so they had me go in the bedroom and pretend I was sleeping. And because I had a lot of the stuff happen at nighttime when I'm going to bed. And so they walked into the room and then they turned it on. As soon as they turned it on, it started spitting out words. It said Michael, Wendy, Paul, Helen, unique, light, special, energy. One time it said the word road, like a street. And when they said that, a car went past the house. And I was sitting there in bed going, that was strange. I mean, because but it's when they started asking questions and they asked questions for 10 minutes. They timed it exactly and it answered. Um, One of the questions they asked was, are you here to harm Daniel? And then that voice came through, that computer voice came through and said, no, we are not here to harm Daniel. We love Daniel. We love Daniel's light. Daniel is the light. When it said Daniel is the light, I was like, what is that supposed to mean? I mean, it was some strange things. There were, every time they asked a question, it just answered. Now, I've watched all the TV shows, and sometimes it takes a moment to answer. It didn't take a moment, it just happened. So they got done. And then I walked out of the room and they were all huddled up. And I said to my wife, what's going on? Because we were excited at that point because there were people there who were witnessing what we had been witnessing now for a few months at this time, because this is all right before I was turning 50. So I was like excited that they were there to see it and maybe because it wasn't really like scary or anything, but it was just they were getting it. So they finally turned around and I said, hey, did you guys get all that? I mean, that was really good, right? And they said, well, yes, we got a lot of information, Mr. Jackson, but there's an issue. And I was like, what's the issue? He says, well, when we turn on that spirit box, usually we can get it to spit out a word or two. I said, okay. He said, it never says sentences, never. And it doesn't say that many sentences for 10 minutes. He said, we were having an intelligent conversation. Whoever was there was talking directly to us right every moment. He said, you heard it. They talked right back as soon as we asked the question. I said, yeah. He goes, it doesn't do that. I said, okay. He said, but we'll come back in about 2 weeks. We'll do a big reveal and we'll let you know. I mean, because there was one time they had me walk into a walk-in closet and the camera guy walks in and he says, oh my God, I'm getting sick. I'm getting sick. I said, all right, let's go back out. And I sit him on the bed and everybody's looking at him. He's like, I said, you feel okay? He's like, yeah, I feel better. I said, what do you want to do now? But well, let's try again. He goes back in. I go back in. He starts getting sick. I got to get out of his way. He's looking like he's going to throw up all over the place. And then he sits on the bed and he's like, I said, are you okay now? He said, yeah. How come you're not getting sick? I said, I don't know. You tell me. You're the expert. That's why you're here. So, so when they said they would come back for the big reveal, they said they would be back in 2 weeks. I couldn't get a hold of them for 6 weeks, and by the time I did get a hold of them, the leader told me. He said, "I said, so when you guys coming back?" He said, "I can't get the team back together." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, once we got on your front lawn, everybody quit." He said, "They're afraid to come in your house." I said, "Well, can you come to my house?" He said, "No, I don't feel comfortable coming in there." I said, well, you're not helping me very much. And so we eventually moved on, and I found 5 different mediums out. I just looked them up online and found them. None of them knew each other, and every one of them told me the same story about me. And that's when it started to really get real. That's when I figured out it wasn't the house, it's me, because it's everywhere I go, I see stuff. So, and still to this day, doesn't make a difference. As I always tell people sometimes, I say, hey, do you want your house to be haunted? Invite me in, because it will be in 10 minutes. I'm not,
No,
and that's one of those things that I'm not kidding.
right. Now, I mean,
Yeah.
when you leave, does everything go with you, or
most
does
most of the
residual
time.
stuff stay behind?
Some stuff stays behind for, I mean, it all depends on who the people are too, because some good spirit like other people, they just like the energy in the house. But there's one thing that people don't really, you hear about all the ghost stories about these haunted houses or really bad haunted houses, and I'm having all this trouble and stuff like that. They're having trouble because the person who lives in that house, the actual person, is a negative person. And these negative energies are attracted to that person. That's why they're there.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things within this spiritual realm that people don't hear about, but they sensationalize all the other things. And the things they sensationalize is because they want you to be in fear of everything. No, don't bother with it.
Hmm. Just talking about the dark spirits and stuff. I've heard my wife's had several readings, and she's mentioned to me on many occasions that the belief is that when people come through from the other side, so to speak, um, that it's not a negative thing or a bad thing, that it's more of a positive thing. But now I'm also hearing you talking about bad spirits. So I'm just,
Yeah.
in my mind, my limited knowledge, I'm trying to rectify the two. So can you shed any
The
light on that?
Yeah, sure. The difference is as many people or as many everything, because I don't just see people, I see dogs, cats, horses, cows, fish. There's no such thing as a rainbow bridge. There just isn't. You either cross over because you're understanding where you're going to go, or sometimes they are lost and they don't cross over and they just stay here, or they just made a decision to stay here. But not everything here in this earthbound realm or this low energy realm is horrible. Not everything is. I see kids walking around and dogs and cats, horses, cows, fish, other beings, everything just walking around. So they just made a choice. That's all it is.
Wow.
But everything that crosses over, as much as what does cross over, there's that much that doesn't cross over.
No kidding.
Gazillions, gazillions. Yeah.
Wow.
Some spirit want to be seen. Most of them don't. They don't want to be bothered. They're
Interesting.
now they're now living a life that's uninterrupted. They don't smell. They don't eat. They don't breathe. They don't pay bills. They don't drive cars. They just interact with each other. And I see them interacting with each other all the time. You think they're just standing around talking. I see them making out and doing other things too. So yeah, they're doing everything that you wish you could do all the time without without the oppression of time itself. They are doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can see why that might be attractive to some of them to stay in this realm then.
Sure,
Right.
sure, sure.
Um,
But you do have all the bad ones there too. The bad ones are not nice. The bad ones are not being controlled by one single person, the devil, because there's no such thing as the devil. Uh, they're not being controlled. They're all in it for themselves. And in that low energy realm, they have to collect energy. They will figure that out once they get there. But there, I see it. I see bands of energy going through. It looks like little rivers, and it's blue, and that's what the color energy is. They're blue. Because when I see the people who are there, they're blue. Their complexion is blue. When I see people who have crossed over into the light, they look just like us, just a little bit transparent, but the other ones are more transparent. But they are blue where they are. And but I can still see all their facial features, everything. I mean, I get when I first see them, I get a quick flash of what they used to look like, and maybe the color of their shirt or the color of their hair and their eyes and all that. But then they go blue, and so everything. But they have to collect energy. So when they see those bands of energy, they walk up to it, they cock their head back, they go into like a dream state, they collect energy, and then they come out of it and they're like, because if they don't collect that energy, for them to walk around in such a low energy state, it would be like how we feel when we walk around and you're nauseous. So they would feel the same thing.
hmm.
Um, but the negative energies need more negative energy in order to continue. And if they can't get it from those who are there, because when you walk into that realm and you stay there, you are still holding on to your pain, anger, sorrow, grief, guilt, anguish, all that stuff. When you cross over into the light, all that gets washed away, as well as all your trauma and all that stuff. Again, there's a lot of people out there who want to convince you, oh, I can take away your past life trauma. No, they can't, because if you're here now, you have gone home to heaven, and then you had to come back because you didn't fulfill your purpose. It's not punished because God doesn't punish us. We punish ourselves 1,000 times a day. Why does He need to do it once more? Because He just doesn't. You walk into heaven, and if you have to come back, all that trauma, as soon as you walk into heaven, gets washed away. You come back into a brand new body. You don't bring old trauma with it. You bring the experiences because your soul has the experience and the knowledge of everything, but it doesn't actually feel pain, so it doesn't bring it back with you. So, but these other ones here who are walking around, if you die over the age of 80 years old, if you're 96 years, if you die over the age of 80 years old, if you have to come back from heaven, you would you would come back 80 years later. If you die under the age of 30 years old, you would come back 8 years later. And the reason for that is so you're not recognized. But if you die and you don't go into heaven and you remain here, whatever age you left at, you will stay that age forever. So if you're 89 years old or 6 years old or 17 years old or 25 years old, you would remain that forever.
Hmm. I mean, I'm fascinated by all of this beyond belief. I could ask you probably 1,000 questions, and I know we don't have time for that today.
Yeah,
But I do want to bring up one more thing before we move on with the story,
sure.
only because I'm sure some other people kind of heard this. And then I do want to keep going with the story. But
Yeah, yeah.
you mentioned that there was no such thing as the devil, and then you
Correct.
talked about that recognition of God.
Correct.
I don't normally get both. I get people who like either believe in both or don't believe in either. Can you rectify that quickly in a short, I don't know,
God is
explanation?
just God is not his real name. We just call him God because we use the term God in a sense of all powerful. Just like when I was a kid back in the 70s, they called Led Zeppelin the gods of rock and roll. The same thing. They use that name, but we can neither pronounce his name or do we actually know his name, because you're not meant to know his name here. You cannot pronounce his name, as well as you cannot actually pronounce your own soul's name. Your soul has a name, but you can't pronounce it because you have a voice box. Because your soul's name is more of a sound vibrational thing, as well as God's name is. But he is just the creator. He created everything, everything that is, he created. Uh, but there's no one guy. There's no such thing as fallen angels. It doesn't work that way. You are a negative person, just like you are a negative person here. You are a negative person there because you choose to be that way.
Hmm.
People can choose differently. They just don't. So if they're walking around being a piece of crap, it's because they are choosing to be that way. They can stop if they wanted to. Just in the same way, like if you and I were best buddies and you came to me and you said, Daniel, I'm having a problem drinking, I'd say, you know what, Roy, here's what I'll do. I will take you to AA. I'll keep you away from drugs and alcohol. I'll keep you away from all the bars and all that stuff. Although who doesn't like a good strip club? I get it, whatever. But I'll keep you away from all that stuff. But no matter what I say or do, is not going to make a difference unless you choose to stop drinking. So unless Rory
Right.
doesn't want to stop drinking, there's nothing I could do about it. So everything you do in your life is a choice. All the negative energies that are bad, they are there because they choose to be bad. And
Got it.
because they remain in that lower realm. And because they remain there, they will be bad until the point where they actually decide to cross over and go home into heaven. It's just, this is not home where we are. That's home. And the creator of that home is just what we would call God. But to
That,
explain everything about God, um,
sure.
so here's how I can explain. I'm not a big religious fan because religion's a bunch of people who want to tell you how to live your life the way they want you to live it and give them 10%. How did they know about 10% back then? Because the people who created religion and created all the books and all the scrolls and all that were kings and queens. Okay, um, so I don't get into all that stuff, let's just say there's two different kinds of gods. You have God who is real and God who's in a book, and so like Here's how I give you a description of that. Say you and I met for coffee one time, Rory, and we sat around for maybe 2 or 3 hours. We just talked about life and ourselves and all that stuff. And then we shook our hands and walked away. And then I came up to you 20 years later and I said, Rory, guess what I'm going to do? I'm writing a book called The Book of Rory. And I think I got everything I needed to know about your entire life, even up to this point, even though I haven't seen you in a while. I know everything about you, your entire life, and I'm going to put it in a book. What would you think of that?
That'd be crazy because all we have is that one conversation.
Right. And so you would say that you can't do that. That's not possible. Yeah.
Right.
It's not possible for the Bible about God either, because he's not omnipotent being and knows everything and all. And you think you're going to get it in one book, let it go. Ain't going to happen. It's
Interesting
it's
outlook. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
not, yeah, it's not real. So but yeah, he's just the creator. Everything that's within you. There's a part in you that even scientists can't even figure out. Part of your DNA. They call it junk DNA because they don't know what it is. It's God.
Hmm.
It's what it is. I mean, you're here. I mean, people think, oh, I can't believe in God or I can't have faith in anything. Well, here's the way I know people have faith in everything in one particular aspect of their lives, and they can't believe in anything else, but they'll believe in this. So I want you to take your two hands together and put them like this, like a cup. Put your two hands together, Rory.
Okay.
Okay. Now in that cup, can you actually show me fear? Look inside the cup. Do you see fear?
No.
How about pain or anger or sorrow?
No.
Grief or guilt?
No.
No, you can't see that, but you sure do make a hell of a lot of decisions based on it all day. But you want to talk about you can't believe in God because you can't see him?
Good
Am I
point.
making sense?
Absolutely.
Correct.
I'm loving it. Thank you for answering the question.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
but negative energies, they're in it for themselves. They do it for themselves because they don't want you to, they're not going to make your head spin around and spit out pea soup all day long. And they can't possess you. Only one soul can be within one body. They can influence you just as well as positive energies can, just as well as people can, but they can say something to you and say, I want you to go out and kill somebody today. You know what you could do? You could go, no, go away, leave me alone. And that's all you have to do. Because someone else walking around could do the same thing. And you could decide to say no. But some people don't. They decide to say yes and they go out and kill people. It's your choice. Everything is your choice. Everything.
Good
And
message.
whether you want to believe in God or not, that's up to you. But the day you die, because you will, because what do you have in common with the other 7.5 billion people on the face of this earth? They've all been to heaven. They've all had to come back just like you. But everyone, I don't care. Everyone. There's two rules in this world. As long as you follow these rules and comprehend these rules, you'll appreciate your life and everyone else's life around you. And rule number one is people die every day. And rule number two is you can't change rule number one. When it's your time to go, it's just time to go. No one dies too soon, too young, unexpectedly, tragically, untimely, nothing. Everyone just dies. Stop doing I can't believe it, or he was in such good health. You're either here for 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, 50 years, or you're not. Get over it. Everyone dies. It's what you do from the time that you wake up in your baby body going, what? And your mom and dad's going, I'm your mom and dad. And you're going, I don't know who the hell you are, but okay. And then they raise you and teach you the ways of the world, which is a bunch of bullcrap. And it's the time that you wake up until you go, and you go until you don't go. And that's what's important in your life. It's not important to have 6 cars and 7 houses and 10 boats, because without those 6 cars and 10 boats and 7 houses have absolutely no value. We base our whole value system on rocks and paper, dollar bills and gold and diamonds. So
Hmm.
without that being in your hand, it's nothing. So what is the true value in this world? Us. Let's get back to that.
Wow. Wow. You've said this a couple of times. I can tell.
I got it down. Say it every day.
I
Everybody I talk to.
I love it. So all right, all this came from your story because we were talking about the horrific event, of
Sort
the
of. All
the
this,
bad
what I'm
movie.
talking about now, came from archangels. They tell me this stuff. So everything comes from them,
Okay. Um. Wow.
which actually comes from God because of the right hand of God.
Yeah, I heard your podcast talking about. I think it was the difference between archangels and spirit guides. It was a
Correct.
soliloquy one that you were doing. Yeah. And that
Yeah.
was interesting.
Yeah.
That was enlightening.
Archangels. But people think, oh, what do my angels have for me? What do my angels have for me? They don't have anything for you. You don't have angels with you. You don't have a guardian angel walking around guarding you from everything because you only want them to guard you from specific things. If you had an angel walking around guarding you from everything, what would you learn? Nothing.
Nothing.
And you don't need a guardian angel to go get a cup of freaking coffee. You just don't. You don't need a guardian angel to take 1,000 selfies and put it on Facebook all day. You don't. And what you have there is you have a self-esteem problem. Go get that fixed. But you don't have a guardian angel to follow you around. Guardian angels, angels and archangels are doing big things. You have spirit guides, and most of the time people just don't even listen to them. I mean, you get people want messages from God. You get a message every day you wake up. You walk around, you have messages, but you think it's thought. It is messages. When you wake up and you say, I'm going to go to the mall today, where do you think that comes from? It ain't coming from you. It's coming from them trying to get you to get your soul to move your body to go in certain places. But you have the world telling you not to have any trust and faith within yourself to do anything. And then they teach you ego. And then you talk yourself out of everything. I mean, when you're driving down the street in a car and you see a car in front of you, and Rory says, I want to pass that car. And then you got a gut feeling that says, don't pass the car. Don't pass the freaking car. That's your soul saying, don't do it because something bad's going to happen, or you're trying to get through life quicker than you're supposed to. You're not. But how do you know when someone they didn't listen? Because Rory goes to the hospital and visits his friend and says, hey, man, how's it going? I go, you know what? I saw that car in front of me, Rory. I saw it. And then they say three words, but I just knew. When I said I just knew, that's your soul telling you. And he didn't listen to his soul. And he went around the car and got into a car accident, but can't figure it out. People get these things all the time, but they still don't figure it out. You're getting messages all the time, but you let your ego and you let the world talk you out of it because they don't want you to have any trust and faith within yourself to do anything. So, because it's they tell you one day to eat bacon, they tell you next day not to eat bacon, they tell you to wear this type of shoe and that type of shoe, and don't wear these kinds of shoes. And you know what they do? They need to shut the hell up, but we need to stop listening.
Wow. Yeah, you said it good in the podcast. I think you said it better right there, to be honest. I mean, that
You're
was great.
welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so at what point did you take all of this and start communicating it to everybody? Were you already doing that before the scary movie moment, or was that something that
No,
catapulted you to share that with everybody?
um, I didn't know any of this before the scary movie type stuff. I was just a regular guy who I was in a motorcycle club. I worked at prison. I was just a regular guy hanging out with my friends and all that. And then when this came on, I knew there was something more. I knew there was something more to it because I've seen things and heard things throughout my life. But I was now once that once I got through that and then met these other mediums, and then one of them in particular came to me, and and she said, "I want you to come to my show." Because I want you to see how I do it. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? But okay. So I bought some tickets. My wife and I went. And then it was when my wife and I walked into the building. I mean, I never met this lady. She was sitting on the stage and excuse me, and she saw me walk into the room and she like locked eyes with me and watched me walk across the room. And then she sat down, we sat down and my wife looked at me and she said, that was kind of creepy. And I said, yeah. So she explained everything, how she does her readings, and she read 8 people in the room, and one of those people was me. And she said some things to me. She talked about how she said, well, I'm getting pictures of someone who had died, and it's the person says he fell down when he died, and that's how he died. And but he's showing you the picture of a school bus, some prison bars, and somebody wearing like hospital clothes and a stethoscope. Does that resonate with anybody? And I said, yeah, that's me. I said, I just went to school for medical records and now I work in prison. And and my dad fell down. He actually fell. He was going up a set of stairs and he fell down and it moved his brainstem. And she said, well, who's Sarah? And I said, Sarah, my niece? She said, no, Sarah, who made the big decision for your dad to pass away. And I was like, oh. That's my mom. Her middle name is Sarah. She's the one that had to tell the doctors to pull the plug.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so at the end of the show, I went down and spoke to her and said, "Hey, I'm Daniel. Daniel Jackson." She's like, "Oh, spoke to you like 2 weeks ago." I was like, "Yeah," and she said she talked to me like I was she was the teacher and I was a student. I felt like I was like 7 years old. She said, "Don't go anywhere. Stay right there. Wait till everybody leaves. I don't want you to move until everybody leaves. You and I need to have a talk." And I was like, "Oh shit." So, um, but it was after when
Okay.
everybody left, she explained to me, she said, "I saw you walk into the room." I said, "Yeah, my wife and I thought that were creepy." She said, "Yeah." She said, "I see you like spirits see you." I said, "And how's that?" She said, "Well, spirit," and I know this because I see it all the time. Spirit sees you. They see your body frame, but you're actually kind of transparent to them. They see your light inside of you. They see your soul inside of you. They see another face inside of you because the soul that's in you now, Roy, doesn't look like you. It looks like you the last time you were here. So, she said, and that's what they usually see. She said, but I don't see that when I look at you. She said, you walked in the room. I had to shut my eyes for a moment. I said, why? She said, because you look like a light bulb. She said, you look like a figure of a light bulb walking into the room. She said, I could feel you on the other side of the door. And she said, that's what spirits see when they see you. And I said, okay. She said, well, I know you see a lot of spirit. And I told her, I said, yeah, it's like being in a room with 1,000 people. So nobody leaves and more just keep coming in. And it's still that way to this day. And
Wow.
she said, well, yeah, but there's a reason for that. She said, I know you can see them, but you see so many because they're coming to you. And I was like, what would they be coming to me for? She said, they see your light like I do. They think that you're the light into heaven. And I just looked at her and I was like, dumbfounded. I didn't, I'm getting choked up about it. I was like, what do I do with that? And that's when she said, you need to have a sit down talk with God. You need to know what you're going to do. And he needs to know what you're going to do. And I said, what do you mean know what I'm going to do? She said, oh, you're either going to move forward with this or not. I said, what is this that you're talking about? And she said, you're a medium, Daniel. She said, you're just untrained. She said, but you're a strong medium. I've never seen a light that bright before. I see people all the time. Everybody in here, I can see their light inside of them, but you are just light. And I was like, okay. She said, you need to have a talk with him and decide what you're going to do. And I was like, all right. She said, I know you don't want this to go away. And I said, it's been part of my life, but I got to get it figured out. She said, have that talk with him. You'll get it figured out. I promise. And I said, okay. So I went home and my wife and I talked about it. And I said to her, I said, I guess I'll have this talk with God. I said, but I looked at her, I said, how do I do that? And she puts things into perspective for me. And she said, how do you do it any other time? You just do, don't you? And I said, well, yeah, I guess I could. And she said, all right, well, go talk to him and see what he has to say. So,
Our wives are good at that.
yeah, really good at that, right? Yeah. I should pay her extra in gum for that. So, and there was, it used to be a commercial one years ago that said, I just got paid my new job in gum. It was some type of gum or something like that. So I go in the room and I have the talk and I said to him, I just laid it out because I'm telling you, I was seeing these skulls coming and floating around in the house with red eyes and fangs and green and red mist pour out of the walls like a witch's cauldron, all kind of shit. And so we were at the stage where I was like rock bottom. I didn't know where else to turn. I didn't know where else to turn or what else to do. I really thought I was going crazy but this lady kind of made sense for me at that moment. So I sat in my bedroom and turned out the lights and I just said, all right, God, if this is what you want me to do, if this is, do you want me to do something with this? If you do, I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want. I'll do it 110%. I'll go wherever you want me to go. I'll be wherever you want me to be. I'll do whatever you want. You just tell me, but I need help because I just don't know what I'm doing here. I just don't. And I don't know how to figure this out. So you got to bring me somebody because I got to figure this out. So, but if this is what you want me to do, I said, if you want me to help these souls that keep coming to me, however it is, I'll do it. Just guide me in the right direction. The very next day, everything changed. All the scary stuff just started going away. And then everything else I started seeing, I'd lay down in bed and I'd see these lights coming out of the floor, and they were like a bluish white light next to me. Now, if I looked straight forward, I could see them out of the corner of my eyes, but if I turned, it would go away. And then I'd turn my head back and then it'd be right there again. It was coming out of the floor because I'd look down and go, it's coming out of the floor, but it's going up straight through the ceiling. I was like, the heck is that?
Wow.
And then one of the other mediums I knew said that they were actually touching me on my face for yes and no answers. And I was like, okay, well, which one is it? And they said, well, she said, well, you have to figure that out for yourself. They want you to figure it out. So, because she said this is all about you. So I was in work one day and I said, okay, so you're touching me on my face for yes and no. Let me ask a question. I said, is my name Daniel Johnson? And I got touched here. I was like, whoa, whoa. Was that one of the touches? And then I got here. I was like, whoa. I was doing like a trial and error. And I was like, okay, so my name Daniel Johnson? I got touched. I said, okay, so that's no. And I got touched here. So wait a minute. Don't screw me up. Is my name Daniel Jackson? And then I got touched there. I said, okay, this is yes, and that's no. From that point on, I had the keys to the city. I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
I could get answers and I could, but it's from that point on that it started progressing. And then eventually those blue and white lights turned into beings and seeing faces and more touches. And when I wrote the book, I think I stated in there that I was getting touched by like maybe 12 or 13 of them. And this is 2.5 years later, and I'm being touched by 67 different archangels. There's not just 12 or 14 that's listed in that book. There's many, many more. They don't look like people. Some of them do, but some of them look humanoid. Some of them don't look like anything I could describe because it's nothing to equate it to. But uh, when I see archangels around me, I see 8 foot praying mantises standing around me,
I heard you
and
say that in one of your podcasts. Yeah.
yeah, I see their big bug faces and eyes, and they're blinking and looking at me. It's when they touch me that's the latest part. About 8 months ago, I asked them. I know they touched me, but because but it was I wanted to know how they were touching me. So it looked, they showed it to me. I closed my eyes and they showed me standing there. Pretty good rendition of me. And they had one up against my back. And then what happens is when he's up against my back, his arms and his tentacles are coming out and he's touching me on the face. And then when another one comes through, it just goes right through the other one because they're in spirit. They go right through each other. But it happens so quickly, I'll get touched by 10 or 15 of them at the same time. So it's just, but it looks like probably the worst body snatcher movie you could ever imagine. Having an 8 foot praying mantis completely surrounding you like a cocoon at all times. And then I have other ones who stand in front of me, and those are the ones who are actually they put thought into my mind. And when they do that, it was only coming in the beginning, maybe like 5% of the time I'd something would come in. Now it's progressed. It's 90% of the time now.
I see. So you're talking to this other medium. You're talking to God about what your next steps are supposed to be and whether or not you're going to
Yeah,
be all in or all out. At that
yeah.
point, do you go to I need to spread the word through podcasting, or I mean, what was it a slower
Um,
tr-
I started doing. I met with a group of other mediums. I met one lady who was doing a intuition group, and then she told me because after I started telling her about me, she's like, "You got to get this figured out." But I know the people who can do it, so she invited me to this group, and it was 5 other mediums. They were all professional mediums. I was the only one. I walked in like, "Hey, my name's Daniel Jackson," blah, blah, blah. And as soon as I walked in, they all went like this. This is the first time I've seen this. All 5 of them sitting in chairs. I walked in the room, opened the door, and they all do this. And I was like, what? And they were like, oh my God, can you turn that down? I was like, oh, that. No. I said, the other lady told me about that too. I said, no, I can't turn it down. I don't know how to turn it down because I don't know what I'm doing. So they helped me to develop it. And then within a year, now they all come to me for answers because I'm the shizzle frickin' dizzle. I'm not bragging. It's just the truth. I get answers from God. People come to me because they want an answer from God, and I get the answer. But they don't always like the answer because they just they don't like the truth. That's all. So, but that's not my problem. So I get them the truth, and that's it. But I was doing readings. Um, I started doing that, but then Spirit told me through channeled messages that they wanted me to get the word out to a wider group of people. And I said, how? And they said, and 'cause they're very aware. They're very aware. And they said, go on your computer and do it that way. And I was like, okay. And then some guy called me up the next day and wanted to know, hey, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And I was like, oh, so, but he wanted to charge me $14,000. So, and I said, no, I got touched no. So when he said that, I got touched no on the side of my face. And I said, no, I can't do this because my guides are telling me not to do this.
They were
So
right. Yeah.
yeah, they're right about everything. I mean, everything. I'll wake up in the morning, and I'll look at my pill bottles because I'm diabetic. I'll pick one up. No. Oh, okay. I put it down. Pick it up. No. I'll put it down. Pick it up. Yes. Oh, pop that pill and take it. I do everything they tell me to do. Everything. I listen, trust, and follow through with everything they tell me to do. They told me 6 years ago if I did that, I would never get into another car accident again, and I haven't. So
Wow.
I listen to what they tell me to do. And everybody can do that. They can listen to their souls, but they have to want to do it. You have to listen to that and stop listening to your freaking ego. But so I was doing that and that didn't work out. And then a couple of weeks later, a friend of mine said, hey, Daniel, this lady I was working with who was getting me gigs different places to do readings. And because I was working for this company called Illuminate Festivals back east, and then I was doing readings all the time. And then I met this one lady, I told her my story, and she's like, you should write a book. I'm like, yeah, everybody keeps telling me I should write a book. Because because Spirit brought that to me um, in meditation. They when I meditate, I see pictures. It's movies or cartoon form. But now I don't have to meditate so much anymore because as soon as I close my eyes, it's already playing. Like it's a message that's been already playing. I just have to figure it out. But they showed me a man who was standing there at a desk writing on these scrolls, and I was like, "Oh, it looks like he's writing something," because I can talk to them just like this. Um, and uh, and then they showed me a piece of paper that had my handwriting on it. And I said, "What do you want me to write a book or something?" And they touched me, yes. And I was like, all right, well, what am I going to write about? And they said, you're going to write about you and everything that happens to you. So, but it was that point when my mother wasn't doing real well, or my wife's mother wasn't doing real well. So it was a couple of years before I actually got to the book. But a lot of stuff that happened to me actually during that period made its way into the book. A lot of the stories. And then I didn't name the book. They named it. They told me the name. They told me the last page of the book was not going to say the end because the last page of my book, alert for you, Rory, but the last page of my book, it says 2332 because that's the end of this place.
Wow.
So I'm not a mathematician. I don't know anything about numerology because numerology is, can I curse on this show?
Oh yeah.
Numerology, along with astrology, is complete and total freaking bullshit. Okay, uh, here is astrology. A bunch of people standing around looking up at the stars, going, "Hey, let's play connect the dots." It makes a fish. Yeah. What about the other gazillions of stars? What do they make? Well, how come they don't make anything? Because it's a lie. Okay, and uh, and the original calendar started out at 5 months, then it went to 9 months, then it went to 10 months, and then it went to 12 months. So they started out with five signs, and they created four more, created one more, then created two more. Okay, so don't let that little article in the newspaper tell you define what your day is going to be like. Let the decisions that you make define what your day is going to be like. Okay, astrology is nothing. You have been here so many times. You have had so many past lives, and with all those past lives, you've also had signs. So out of all those past lives that you've had, let me ask comment real quick. So Corey, Roy, you've been here 28 times. So that quick. So I asked how many times you've been here. They told me 28. I said in my mind that quick, did you say 28? And then they touched me across my forehead. You've been here 28 times. So you've had 27 other lifetimes, 27 other sets of moms and dads, brothers and sisters, dogs and cats, and 27 other astrological signs that mean absolutely horseshit because you have 28 signs total. Which one are you? None of them. Okay. Let it go.
Okay.
Okay. Your soul, your body was created and born under stars, but it's not. It's just born. Your soul was created. Your body's born. Your soul was created. And it's not created under stars. It's created from God, from a part of Him which makes your soul a divine soul. Everyone is a divine soul, not just Jesus Christ. He didn't die for your sins because sin is their rules. And if you're living under their rules, you're sinning. But if you're not, you're not. pretty simple. Wake up. Oh, wake up, people. So yeah, they kept telling me, hey, you got to get this word out. So when this lady told me she was going to recommend me to a page on Facebook by this guy named Adam Homey, I have everything with podcasting. I owe it to this guy because he explained everything how to do it. So my wife and I started doing it, and we started doing this. We already had an LLC with Beyond the Veil with Daniel. Beyond the Veil. Uh, that was hard. That was unbelievably easy. We actually put out like 10 names, and I said, I really like this Beyond the Veil one. 2 weeks later, that one comes back and it's open. So we got it. So I mean, how does that ever happen? It doesn't.
It
So
doesn't.
right, because everybody who knows who does that knows that it doesn't happen. So but it happened. So we have Beyond the Veil, and we started doing a podcast, and I wanted to do a podcast because in a certain way, because I'm sick and tired of all the TV shows and all the movies that put out a bunch of bullshit and of things that are real and things that are not real. And our motto is we're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So you come to our show. I'm the only reason I have any guests on my show is I don't even pick them. I let Spirit pick them. So I put an ad out. They respond to me. I look at their name. I get touch no. I go, sorry, not good for my show. Another one comes up. Yes. Oh, okay. And then I have them on my show. That's how I do it.
Let me ask you because, and I hope you don't mind me bringing this up, but you mentioned to me earlier before the show that you don't normally do podcasts like this, but you thought this was important. What did you mean by that?
Because you're going to do the same thing I'm doing. You're telling the truth. You're looking for the truth. Not only are you looking for the truth, but you yourself are inspired by the truth and you stay away from bullshit. So I knew that you were the right one to do. That's how I picked your show. Again, I looked at your name when you put an ad up and I said, should I be on this show? And they touched me, yes. So that's what I did.
Thank you for that. I
Because
appreciate
because
that.
it's not just I know we're telling my story and stuff like that, but we're also going to talk about podcasting.
Well, sure.
Because because podcasting is a whole different animal.
Hmm.
And with podcasting, I'm sure I wrote a bunch of note down for things that I would talk about in podcasting that I know a lot of other podcasters go through the same thing. Like I just saw somebody on your page for your ad say the one thing that I can't stand that podcasters mention. A guest that wants to be on the show. They put two words or they put one word. Interested. What does that mean? How about you just tell me what you do so I can find out if you would be a good match? Don't just put interested. That tells me nothing about you.
That would make
Nothing.
things a lot easier. Yeah. Because there's
Right. So
18 questions later. Now I know what you do.
right. Well, what did I do when I put on
Oh, yeah.
for you? I put a huge this is what I do, this is what I'm
Hmm.
involved with. And here's a picture of I have something called a one sheet. I didn't just take a picture in my bathroom mirror going, look at me, look how good this picture is. I have professional pictures, everything. I had that all taken care of because I knew if I wanted to be on good shows that were going to be good shows and not these I hate to say it half-ass shows, but they are. I had to have some sort of professionalism to go along with it.
Sure.
So that's what I did. So we put a one sheet together. I put a bio basically together of basically kind of describing my whole life in a big paragraph. I also have another bio that goes along with that, and then we had some pictures taken because I can't just put interested because you don't know who the heck I am. And then we'd have to ask, go back and forth between us, well, what do you do? How do I know if you're a good fit for my show? Are you going to show up? Do you have professional equipment? I have a Rode Procaster 2 board here and a Rode Procaster mic, and we have LED lights hanging from the ceiling. We have a studio in here, so I have everything that needs to in order to be on what people would consider a good show. Now, maybe some people may not know all of that because they hear they only hear the vocal part of the show, the audio part of the show, but they can hear through my voice that I must have a pretty good microphone here, and I have a 4K camera sitting in front of me. So I did everything that I needed to do, but I also knew that you did too. And you go about it in a professional way. And you can hear that just in your introduction. I knew your show wasn't going to be one of those, oh boy, let's see how this goes. Because yeah.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it very much.
Oh,
I'm glad that's what came through for you. I mean, that means a lot.
well, so when that came through to me again, that's not being brought to me just like by me going, again, I trust everything they tell me to do, and everything that they tell me to do, I do, and they give me information. So everything that was being brought to me is being brought to me by archangels. It's being brought to me by God. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
God told me to be here. So I'm following through with it.
Well, I'm interested just in terms of the connection that I've felt from you since I started talking to you. What you have written down, because I'm willing to bet it's probably most of the questions I would ask you anyway about podcasting.
Yeah, sure. I had it right here on my phone. So, yeah, first word says, I don't know if you can read. It says interested, and then
There you
uh,
go.
people that don't show up, people who show up extremely late, um, people who don't, but they don't get my time right because I live in Arizona now. One part of the year, right now, I'm 3 hours behind you, but another part of the year, I'm only 2 hours behind you. No
Right.
one can seem to get that, and they show up either too early. So when I do someone else's show or I have them come on my show, I will make sure that I'm at least an hour early. So that way, in case they just show up and I go, oh well, yeah, obviously you don't know how to tell time, but I'm not telling them that because I'm not going to do that. Or they forgot. I had a guy who
Oh,
I booked through Calendly, through or whatever that is,
right.
and I booked his show and he didn't show up. And then when I got a hold of him, he said, "Oh man, I'm sorry about that. I forgot. Can you rebook?" I said, "Sure." And then he did it again.
Oh,
And then he said, "Can you reschedule?" I said, "No. Well, why do I reschedule with you?" I said, "Obviously, your show is not that important to you. It's important to me because I showed up twice, but I'm not a three strikes person. Screw me over once, but screw me over again. I mean, I'm still a human being, so I'm not going to do that."
right.
Um, the people who want to be on my show, but then after they get a hold of me, then I got to chase them down because I'm having to send out 10 emails for them to finally get back to me. Oh well, I'm sorry I had this happen. Oh well, or I love the ones who say at the very last moment, like I'm about to be on the show. Oh, I got to cancel, or or I, I it's always the excuse. They use the same excuse that they did when they were in high school. I'm sick, or my child is sick.
Right.
Now, unfortunately for them, I've done readings before where I had two ladies sit in front of me, and one lady was asking me questions, and I'd done a reading with her. She was really good. So her partner was sitting in front of me, and she asked me questions, and the first question I ask is when I'm doing a reading is this person telling me the truth? And I got no. And I said, oh, she's not telling me the truth? No. She asking me manipulated questions to get her own truth? Yes. And I said, oh, okay. So she was, and I said, okay, we have to stop. She said, why? I said, well, you're not telling me the truth. I said, you're telling me a manipulated truth. I said, the reason you're, and I looked at her girlfriend. I said, the reason you're telling me a manipulated truth is because I turned around and looked at her. I said, because she wants power and control over you because she doesn't care about your happiness. The only thing she wants to do is have power and control over you to get you to do what she wants you to do and not what you want to do. And she really doesn't care about you with anything else. It's all about her having control over you. That's all it is. She doesn't love you. She hates your fucking family, everything. So you need to get the hell out. Here's like Bill Engvall. Here's your sign. Get out. And then I turned back around and I said, so if you would start to ask me truthful questions, then I can get you truthful answers. And she looked at me. She went,
Wow.
okay, okay. And I said, yeah. I said, because don't play around with me because I said, I'm the real deal, lady. I said, so you want the truth? Ask me the truthful questions. I'll get the answers. I said, so don't screw around with me because you're not going to win. I'm telling you, you're not going to win. So she started asking me truthful questions, and here's what she did. I gave her the answers, and when I did that, she started doing this. And I said to her, I said, "Are you humming?" And I looked at her girlfriend. I said, "She humming?" She said, "Yeah, she does it to me all the time." I said, "Yeah, because she's trying to block you out. And she's trying to block me out because she doesn't like the truth." I stood up and said, "Here's your money. Have a great day. Goodbye." That's it.
Wow.
I don't play games with anybody. I have people who come on my show. A lady who one time came into the room. I was doing a live reading show, and she came in and she said, "Well, I want to ask a question about my brother who's passed away." And as soon as she said that, I got no. And I was like, and I'm talking to them. I'm saying, he didn't pass away. No. Oh, she trying to manipulate me. Oh, I know what's going on here. So I said to her, I said, "I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I knew it. I knew it. I knew you were not real. I knew you were not real. And everybody else knows that needs to know he's a freaking fraud." And I said, "No, it's not that I can't answer your question for that reason." I said, "I can't answer that question because your brother's not dead." And she went, "Huh?" I said, "Your brother's not dead." I said, "You're asking me a manipulated question. So you're trying to get an answer about your brother who's dead, but he's not actually dead. Because the reason you're doing that is because you're one of those people who doesn't believe in anything and you think no one else should. And you're just trying to get everybody else to think the same way you do, even though you're a piece of shit. So here's what I want you to do. Get out of my room because you're a piece of shit and I'm not going to answer these piece of shit questions." And then everybody in the room was like, "Oh my God, get out of this place." And she was like, but. I said, "No, there's no but. That's what you're doing, right?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Good. Goodbye."
Boom. Oh
So,
my gosh.
so when people tell me, like I had a girl who I was going to be on her show, and she said, "Oh, I'm sick. I can't do the show today." I said, I messaged her right back. I said, "You're not sick." I said, "You have a friend of yours that actually offered you a better thing to do today. That's why you're canceling the show." I said, "So don't play around with me." And she says, because she asked me to rebook. I said, "No, I'm not going to rebook because you're a liar. So why would I go on?" And she was actually a medium because this is what they do because there's a bunch of them out there who are pieces of shit. So I said, "No, I'm not going to be on because you're a liar. You're a piece of shit. So why would I be on a piece of shit show?" I said, "The moment you lied to me, that's when I figured everything out that they told me you're lying to me." So I said, "No, I'm not going to be back on your show." So like a month later, I put the ad out for people to be on my show, and she goes, "Oh, I've been following you, and your shows were great, and all this stuff. I'd love to be. I think I'd be a great show." I said, "Don't you remember me? I was the person who was trying to get on your show last month, and then you lied." And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's right. You told me I was lying." I said, "Yeah, because you were, and you're lying now." Because you're trying to tell me how wonderful I am just so you can get on my show. I said, "It's not going to happen. Have a great day."
I mean, you're describing how every podcaster who's listening to this right now wishes they could respond to all of those same
Right.
things.
And you know who responds back to him? Me, because I don't care, because I'm not going to put up foolishness. I don't. I don't have to put up with foolishness. If you want to be on my show, great. But if you're going to mess around and play around and do a bunch of bullcrap and, "Oh, well, I can't make it this day or I can't make it that day and blah, blah, blah," then I guess you really don't want to be on the show. And that's fine with me too.
I
But
love
don't
that.
try to but don't try to pull that mess on me. Yeah. So that's one of my big ones.
I love that.
Um I love the ones who don't talk. Yeah, they're not very talkative. Yeah. Yeah, that's another one. They just kind of sit there and they don't say much, and then you got to really drag it out of them. That's a hard one too. So
This is an audio program. I need you to speak. We
yes,
can't see your
absolutely. Yeah,
facial movement, you know?
that's what I'm here to do. Yeah, I mean, you mean I dressed up for nothing? This isn't dressing up, but yeah, you got to talk. If you don't talk, I mean, that's what you're coming on the show to do. I mean, that's how you are putting you out there. So why
Right.
wouldn't you talk? And yeah, it's like the worst first dates I've ever had in my life with some of these people. It's just horrible. They just
Yeah.
they're just speechless. But yeah, those are the hard ones. Yeah, and then again, when I have to chase them down, that's when I stop. I'll send the two emails after that. Then nothing, and then I'll just get rid of them, and then they'll come back like a couple weeks later. "Oh, well, I was doing this and this. Well, I guess it wasn't that important to you. Have a great day."
I think it's great that you respect your time and that you respect yourself and your craft enough to, hold it up like that.
Yeah,
We're
I
not
got a
desperate.
deadline. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a deadline. I got to put shows out, especially with this. I'm on this network now. It's called Ethereal TV, and shameless plug. And
Love it.
and so in order to be on their show, I have to put a show out every week. Now it hasn't gone live yet, but when it goes live, I have to have enough shows that are going to last 52 weeks. I can't wait around for people. I don't have time for it. So
Right.
yeah, if you're going to be on my show, I mean, that's great. But and I would really like to have you. But if you're just like you are when you were 13, oh, mom, I don't want to go to school today because I feel sick. No, come on, let it go. You gotta figure this out. I'm not feeling too great today. I'm having to take this mag citrate because I'm a little backed up. Yeah, that's what I'm drinking here right now because yeah, I'm waiting for that to kick in. Not kick in the way that I wanted to kick in, but because not when I'm sitting here because I don't want to mess
Hey,
up
I
this
wasn't
nice
going to bring
chair.
that up, but if you want to be transparent, I mean, you can
I,
be.
I'm transparent as the spirit that I see every single day. So,
There you go.
but yeah, I'm very transparent. I don't mince words. I tell it like it is, and I think that's what people like about me the most is I am not the rainbows and unicorns medium. I don't tell everybody that everything is love and light and all that bullshit because it's not. Because life is hard and it's not going to be easy. But because if life was meant to be easy, what would be the point of living? If you were given everything in your lifetime, what would you wouldn't appreciate anything. But it does take work and you can work through it, but you have to do the work. You can't just go out and buy a bunch of crystals, people, and put on some cool mythical tattoos and think everything is going to be okay now. It's you have to put in the hard work. You have to do it. You have to get rid of all the negativity in your life. And if you're not willing to do that, well, then you're just fooling yourself. And I'm not out there to fool anybody. I am trying to help people as much as I can every single day. Anybody that I come in contact, I bump into people. You don't really bump into anybody, but I live in like 20 minutes from Tombstone, Arizona, because I live in Arizona, and so I go to this bar and I don't drink. I just drink soda or Gatorade because the spirit tells me not to smoke, drink, do drugs, no alcohol, nothing. I can't even take CBD, nothing. And because I have to be in order to get clear messages, you must be clear. So in order to be able to hear things and see things and everything all day long, I have to be clear in order to do that. And that's a big commitment. Not everybody wants to do that, but I'll go down there and hang out because that's a big ghosty town because I see everything walking around there. But I'll talk to people and they'll say something about ghosts and then they'll say, hey, how about we're going to go down to the bird cage. And I go, oh man, don't go to that place. 'Cause I'm not going to recommend you go to haunted houses because if you've been having a shitty day all day, what do you think's going to come up to you? All the negative ones.
Hmm.
And then you might go home with something horrible because you couldn't expel that negative energy from your day. If you spill your coffee, pick it up. Go get another coffee. It's not the end of the freaking world. Let it go. Learn to let it go. It's my favorite three words. But I tell people I wouldn't go there because there's a really bad negative energy there, and he's going to try to scare the crap out of you. But I like being scared. Okay, whatever. Okay, it's not the movie scared you're going to get. He's going to do something to you, like he's going to try to push you down a set of stairs. You think that's the kind of scared you want to be? No, I say then don't go there.
Right.
People don't get it. It's the television and movies that have sensationalized and Hollywood thing. It's not like that. It's not.
That's going to
The
be a
bad,
hard message to get out there. Yeah,
yeah, the bad
because
the bad things are 10 times worse than you think they are. And the good things are 10 times better than you think they are. But the movie things, it's not. It's just not. Angels don't have wings. They don't. They're not men with wings and shields and swords. They're not. There's no battle in heaven. I mean, even if we were to think about heaven and hell, which there is no such place as hell, why would there be a battle in heaven if everything bad is in hell?
good
No
point.
one thinks about that. But there is no such place as hell. You either walk into the light or you remain here as an earthbound spirit. But in that earthbound place, there is a lot of negative energies that you're susceptible to because you chose to be there. That's all. That's your choice. But
Love it.
yeah, there's all this crazy crap out there that you know. Oh, let me take some sage and I'm gonna burn some sage and make all the negative energies go away. Well, because those negative energies live in a realm where they don't have a body, they don't have lungs, they don't smell, and they don't breathe. The only thing that you're going to do is set off your fire alarms because they can't smell it, and it's not going to make them go away.
Hmm.
It, something physical cannot transfer into a non-physical realm. It just can't. They can because they are non-physical. The physical things I mean, if you throw something in the air, it's not going to disappear and go into the spirit realm. So why would you think smoke is going to do that? Because if this were not the case, then how come all the forest fires in the world haven't made all the negative energies go away? Because it can't. Wake up. Wake up. Yeah, just people just they just don't get it. But yeah, I mean, if take a lighter and light it, does it go, well, if everything in hell just burns in hell and everything in there explodes because it's on fire, why doesn't it do that when you turn the lighter on?
Right.
Because it doesn't. It's a bunch of bullcrap. Yeah.
Wow. All right. I mean, I love it. It makes sense,
Am
when
I
you
killing
actually
you
think
with
about it.
am I killing you with too much stuff?
No, not at all. Man. All right. And back to the podcasting, because honestly, I
Oh,
could
yeah,
talk to you
there's
for
that.
hours.
There's that. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I could like keep asking you questions and keep hearing what you have to say. I'm enthralled,
Yeah.
and I'm very interested in
Anytime you
this
want to do
stuff.
that, anytime you want to do that, you just let me know. I'll come back
You and I
on.
may be talking again. It's a very good chance. I think you and I are going to be talking again. I always ask my corny question, is what I like to call
Yeah.
it, and
Cool.
I've said it in every one of our podcasts, pretty much. Is that hey, this is my corny question. What do you love the most about podcasting, and what do you really hate the most about podcasting? You may have answered it already with
Yeah.
with some of the
Yeah.
rant that you
With
gave me
with
earlier.
with the hate one, probably I answered it about 6 times. Uh, what do I really love about it? A couple of things. I get to do interviews with interesting people, and I get to meet some really cool people, and I get to learn a lot of things too. I don't know everything, but I mean, with me, if I need to know about something, I could just ask an archangel, get an answer. But I like to get it from people because I want to get their perspective on it because their perspective is different than what you would think an angel would have. So so I get to hear all the different perspectives. I get to meet some cool people. And with that, even with this, even though we're doing an interview and I'm putting information out there, I think I'm making people very aware of what is actually the truth and what's actually not the truth. And not only am I doing that with them, I'm also, I think I'm doing that with you because you're picking up on it, you're getting it. It's making sense. And I think if it's making sense to you, it's making sense to everybody else. I enjoy that part because most of all, that needs to be out there. The world can handle it. We have to stop lying to them. And I'm out there to bring the truth out to people, and I want them to know that, even I'm very accessible too. I mean, I give people my email address. They can come and join my Spirit Medium Daniel group on Facebook, and I'm very active in there, and I'll answer any question they want to. I want them to know I'm very accessible, and I can help them as much as I can, but they got to be truthful in their quest for this information and not just trying to tell some story to their friends. So I love doing that. I love being out and talking to people and getting to know people and reaching as many people as I can. Even like when I sent you a copy of my book, when I sell my book, I sell it for $8. I'm not trying to make $1 million. I'm just trying to help 1 million people. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not, yeah, I know I'm not making $1 million off that book as of now, but as long as I can help everybody, that's okay. I mean, because when you get to the end of the book, that's what I really want you to pay attention to. Oh, my story's cool and all that stuff, and but it's the end of the book. It's called the basics. That's chapter 12. It's all these messages that archangels brought to me, and I put them in the book so we can try to become the better versions of ourselves, helping other people to do the same. Because when I submitted that to the editor, she sent it all back and said it doesn't need to be edited because my grammar sucks. But she said that doesn't need to be edited. How come? I said because it didn't come from me. But so I'm glad that I'm getting out there, and I know I'm helping people because I'll, I was just at a place last month doing readings, and a lady came up and said she just heard me on a podcast that week. And she came to get a reading with me because she knew, as everyone tells me, everything that I talk about, it just resonates with them. And what that means is when it's resonating with you, that's your soul telling you that I'm telling you the truth. That's what it means. So, when those types of instances happen, I mean, I've gotten on other podcast shows because a podcaster heard me on another show.
Mhm.
So I know it's working. And then I get to go out there and I get to help as many people as I can. The bad side of it is I have to deal with everything else. Again, the people who don't show up, the people who don't take this serious, the people who say, I'm interested, but then even after you contact them when they said they were interested, it takes you, you replying back to them and they say nothing. If they were that interested, then why didn't, and if you're that interested, don't tell me you're just interested. Tell me who you are and tell me what you do because I don't know if you're a good fit for my show. But me, I have a different way of doing that because they could say I'm interested, and I go, "Is this a good person?" No, okay, and then I'll respond. I just respond, "No, thanks, you're not a good fit." Well, how would you know if I didn't tell you anything? I said, one, well, you should have told me when you first said you were interested, but two, Archangel said you're not a good fit. So have a great day. Be good and don't do any stupid shit. But so yeah, it's all the bad parts of getting somebody on the show and having to get them to show up and it sometimes they have technical difficulties. I've been on some shows where they had some extreme technical difficulties because they were just figuring it out and they haven't figured it out correctly yet. They were good people, but they just were not technically smart. Neither am I because my wife does everything for me. I just sit here and do this. She turns everything on for me because I don't know about this shit. And then it's the same thing when I do readings. We go into a place and she sets everything up. I sit in a chair and wait for her to bring me people. That's what I do. And I'm always busy because people who tell the truth are always busy. Correct, Rory?
Absolutely correct.
Right.
Yeah, love it.
So,
All right. Hey, I've kept you for a long time. I appreciate it very much. I do need to wrap it up a little bit, but I have one more question I want to ask you,
sure.
and you've given a lot of advice to a lot of folks in a lot of ways. So, um, the last question that I usually like to ask is, what's one good piece of advice that you can give out there, or your best advice to, a podcaster who's starting off, or somebody whose show is not quite where they want it to be, and a podcaster who's trying to grow. What's your best advice to somebody in that position?
This is not a money making scheme. It's just not. There are so many podcasters who get into it who think once I get into it and I get like maybe a couple hundred people who listen to my show, then I'm going to start making money off it and I'm going to make a boatload of money off of it. They go out and buy all kinds of thousands of dollars equipment like I have here. And then they think I'm going to start making a living off it. They think I'm going to be able to quit my job and make that kind of money off of it right off the bat. And you're not. It takes a long time. I just got picked up by this streaming network, Ethereal TV, because I was on a podcast a little over 2 years ago. Um, but I do something different than everyone else does. I talk to archangels. I've seen God, 6 times. He's spoken to me 8 times and touched me 6 times. And archangels touch me all the time. And that's not pleasant. It's not like the TV show. The very first couple of times when I was being touched by archangels, it would be coming out of both ends the next day. And
Hmm.
that went on twice a month for 3 years. Do you think that's fun? No. So anybody who's listening, but I'm getting on this network because of me being I'm the angel guy. I mean, I'm the freaking guy. There's a lot of other out there who are saying they're talking to angels. They're not because once I talk to them and they tell me about their experience of being touched by angels, oh, it feels like a feather. I know they're full of shit. Okay. And anyway, archangels will tell me they're not actually talking to archangels. So, uh, but uh, but be persistent. Be persistent with your show. You have to constantly put out good material. You have to constantly put out material that people want to listen to. Is not just some sports scores and stuff like that. But there's enough sports shows out there. Don't start another one, please. There's enough. I don't want to hear another one about wrestling, okay? Because wrestling itself is just a joke, okay? It's entertainment. It's a distraction, okay? From you learning, from you knowing what's actually going on in this world. Stop listening to it. But you have to you have to have consistency with your shows. And if you're going on these podcast groups and you're asking, so what do you think I should have a show about? Then you should absolutely get out of podcasting because you don't know what you're doing. Have a theme of what you're going to do. My show is called Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson. Me, Daniel Jackson. I'm the host of that because I'm in that space, because I get people who are in the metaphysical and supernatural world because I'm in that. And I don't even have to sit there with a script and ask questions because they say things, I pick up on things, and then I ask them questions. And I so don't script everything, because when you script, we have enough scripted TV. I don't want to hear a scripted podcast. Okay, just be as real as you can, because and listen to them and let them be real too. If you get a bunch of people on your show that want to only have you ask the questions that they want you to ask, no, don't have them on, because it's going to get very boring. It's just the same old show over and over and over again. But yeah, be persistent, be consistent, um, and I don't go by all the analytical numbers. I just put information out. I have no idea. I mean, apparently my show was doing pretty good because it got picked up by a network. But again, I'm the angel guy. But but again, I don't pay attention to the numbers, because I'm just paying attention to what I can put out there, what kind of information I can put out there that's going to help somebody. If you're a show that's it's going to make some people laugh, then be funny. If you're a show that's going to give them some information that's going to help them throughout their lives, then be correct with that information. And I am not the one who goes out and goes along to get along. I don't do the panels, because I don't do the panel shows, because every time I go into panel shows, the other mediums always tell me I'm too challenging, and because they'll say something to me, I'll say, well, that's not the truth, and well, but we've all been talking about it. I said, yeah, but you're all wrong, because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because and they will always say to me that, oh, that was very rude of you, and I always say, don't mistake my confidence as arrogance. I just know I'm correct, and you're not, so let it go. And then let me teach you some things. But so they don't like me on those shows. But but be be consistent, be persistent. Don't let the numbers drive you crazy, and just put out content. And have somebody who can do a bang up job of doing the editing. I don't do the editing. My wife does a bang up job. Again, we use DaVinci Resolve. She has the board kind, so she actually has a board that sits there and does all the stuff and it's hooked in. It's a paid version, but that was not cheap. This business, it can be done cheaply in the very beginning. We were using telephones as cameras, but if you want good quality, you're going to have to start getting good quality stuff. And anybody can do this, but again, it's not easy. You have to be persistent. And if you don't have a goal set in front of you to do this for at least a year or two, I'm telling you, don't do it, because you're going to waste your money on a lot of equipment, and then you're going to end up selling it, or you're going to start bringing it over to shop to Goodwill and stuff like that, because you can't get rid of it. Uh, have a goal set in mind. Have a decent looking set. Don't have just five guys speaking into one microphone. 100 feet away from you. You get you can do that, but how many people are going to listen to that? Do you want to listen to that? Do you want to listen to that on TV? The podcast that I'm doing now is going to be on Roku and Fire TV, so it has to be quality TV. It has to that they have to be able to understand everything that I'm saying and talking about. And if all you hear is a bunch of static coming off the microphones, or all this buzzing and all that stuff, that's not pleasant to listen to. So again, when you're doing podcasting, have your shit together. You can do it in the smallest ways and or the biggest ways. I said, but you got to have a show that someone wants to listen to. And the one big thing I can't stand on the podcasting, especially on the podcasting sites. How about if you go on and like my show, and I'll like your show, and we should like all each other's shows, and we could share all these other likes, and that's going to make us more popular. No, it's not. People see through that. They understand that. People who do the analytics see that you're being seen by these other shows. It doesn't help you. You need physical, real people listening to your shows and listening to it constantly, not just liking your show. They have to be constantly listening to it, because in order for you to get some type of backing, some type of sponsor, they got to see that you have a certain amount of people and they are constantly listening to your show, so that they can constantly try to sell them something. So be very aware of what's going on, especially like I said, these other people go, oh, we can like each other's shows. No, don't just walk past that. It's not going to get you anywhere.
Daniel, I couldn't have said any of that better myself. So I appreciate that. I mean, you and I
3 years of this crap, Rory.
I
three
know.
years,
I've been doing it
so
for, man. I know.
uh,
You
it,
are preaching to the choir, and I'm loving every minute of it. That's exactly
I,
what I have
I,
said.
I say it like it is, because if
Oh,
people want us, ask yourself, when you go to a doctor, do you want him to tell you a bunch of medical jargon, or do you want him to tell you the truth?
Right on. The truth.
Because
100%.
because if you listen to the truth of it is there's no such thing as good news or bad news. There's only news. It just depends upon what you do after that news. You can either sit around with your thumb up your ass all day long and do nothing, or you can be proactive and do something about it. That's it.
Love it. Love it.
But either way, you're all going to die anyway. Have a great day.
I'm not at all surprised that that's your mic drop right there.
Yeah. I have worse ones, but I'm trying to be respectful
I'm
towards
going
people.
to die anyway.
Sort of.
I love it. Folks, the host of Beyond the Veil, the author of My Awakening as a Spirit Medium, uh, Daniel Jackson, thank you so much for coming here today for all the truth. And honestly, for opening up and just letting everybody in like that. That was, you're an amazing guy. You really are. I'm happy to
Thanks.
have met you. I really am.
Appreciate it. Me too. Yeah, yeah. If we don't, what will this world be like if we're always continuously holding back from each other? We're all in this together.
Love
We're
it.
all in this together. We all live on the same planet. No one's going anywhere anytime soon, so we better start to get along with each other before we annihilate each other. And that's the truth. Don't let it happen.
There you go.
Stop segregating ourselves from ourselves. We're all people. We're all human. Find that out.
Awesome. Awesome. Folks, great parting words from Daniel Jackson. I appreciate you folks listening tonight. I really do. Thank you so much for joining us. Here at Podcaster Nation, we just absolutely love all of you folks. And we subscribe to the belief that the rising tide raises all ships. So, you know what? Keep sailing. All right. Believe it. And we will talk to you all next time.